today's topic is impermanence as a tool for Dhammanupassana. Out of all the Satara Satipatthana, the first three, there is something relatively straightforward about it. Kayanupassana, most often we practice it through the Anapanasati meditation. Vedananupassana, if you are familiar with the Goenkaji technique, of course, Goenkaji always says that it is not his technique, it is the Buddha's technique. And then, of course, the Chittanupassana, observing the various thoughts that rise in the mind and observing whether they are wholesome or unwholesome, whether they are part of the Lobha Dvesha, and so on. Dhammanupassana, you hardly find good instructions on it. And I came across one talk which explained it as contemplating on the core teachings of the Dhamma, whether it is the Trilakshana, which is impermanence, suffering, and non-self, or whether it is the Four Noble Truths, or the Panchaskandha, what we call the Panchaskandha, and so on. The inspiration for today's talk came while watching a YouTube video of Venerable Henepala Gunaratnana Swamin Wahanse. The YouTube video was about a meditation retreat he was conducting in the US. It was of several parts, goes up to part 5, I think. In one of the parts, there was a Q&A session, and a person asked him a question. Because in the previous talk, the Venerable touched upon the 3 characteristics of life, which is everything is impermanent, impermanent things causes you suffering, and the root behind all of it is understanding this whole non-self concept. So it is very interesting to, number one is to hear Buddhism explained by people who are not what you call quote unquote born Buddhist. That's one. And also interesting to hear questions and clarifications raised by, again, people who are not born Buddhist. In this case, the participant was a foreigner, and he asked a very interesting question. His question was about impermanence and how impermanence leads to suffering. So he said, Bhante, you referred to that everything in this world is impermanent. And he said, I understand that. He said, in this meditation retreat, if I look outside, I can see a flower. I understand that that flower is impermanent. When I look up to the sky, I can see a cloud, and I understand that that cloud is impermanent. I get it. But you said that impermanent things makes me suffer, makes me unhappy. Now, I looked at the flower a couple of times, and I'm thinking, this flower is not making me unhappy. This flower is not making me suffer. I looked at the cloud, and I was thinking, this cloud is not making me suffer. So could you please explain, how do impermanent objects make me suffer? And then, so they refer to the Venerable as Bhanteji. So then Bhanteji goes on to explain, you are right. As I mentioned, everything in this world is impermanent, whether it is living beings or material things or non-living things. They are all impermanent. They have come to be for a reason, and it changes all the time, and it will cease. Things rise, change, and cease. Now, what makes you suffer is not the impermanent object in itself. What makes you suffer is if you get attached to this impermanent object. Now, this conversation might seem like a very simple one, but it is important. In the Mangala Sutta also it says you need to listen to Dhamma quite often, because your aha moments come from the same thing being heard a couple of times. And for me, just listening to this, what seemed like a simple conversation, was a profound aha moment. And for around 2 weeks, I was thinking about this. I was thinking about how I get attached and how I suffer as a result, and what in that attachment is causing this suffering. And that is why I felt that in itself is actually a talk and a meditation object. So let us take it, untangle it layer by layer. So impermanent things or beings don't make us suffer. Getting attached to impermanent object or a being is what makes us suffer. So what happens when we get attached? We are attached to quite a large number of beings. However, when you take the total human population in this world, it's 8 billion people. Compared to that, the number of humans we are attached to is quite small. Let's say it's 100 or less, where you are quite deeply attached. Now, often you hear that something unfortunate happened to a human being, and mostly these are people we don't know. And of course, because we are compassionate human beings and we have empathy, when you hear something unfortunate has happened, of course you feel sad. But feeling sad and suffering are two different things. You feel sad because you can empathize, or that must be quite tough. Oh, I wish that didn't happen. I hope the people who are going through it are going to be okay. And then you move on. However, if that happens, the same unfortunate thing happens to one of those 100 people that you are very deeply attached to, that is where the lamentation, the pain, the grief, and almost feeling this is unfair. I remember in one of the talks by Ajahn Brahm, he said, when something really bad happens in people's lives, something really unfortunate happens, people are used to asking, why me? He said, you're asking the wrong question. Because life or the universe can always ask you back, why not me? Why not you? What is so special about you that this should not happen to you? I also read somewhere that the Buddha said, when something happens to you and it feels like this is so unfair, why is this happening to me? It's because you are misguided, your delusion into thinking that you are special and something very special has happened to you right now. However, if you make it commonplace, the suffering eases a bit. What do you mean making it commonplace? You ask yourself, out of the 8 billion people in this world, who else has this happened to? You will get a large number. Statistically, it happens quite a lot. This will be the answer. Let's say you slipped and fell and broke your leg. It's very natural to think, why me? And if you look around, how many people in this world have slipped and fallen and broken their leg? It's a very, very large number. It's almost a very common thing. So this starts to tell us something. This whole delusion is about not being in touch with reality. Now, we are logical human beings. We know that anything that is born grows old, grows sick, and dies. We know this logic. The problem is when that process happens to a person we are very attached to. That is when the logic stops being logical and it becomes illogical. That is when we start asking, why me? Why is this unfair thing happening to me? So what is causing this delusion? What is this attachment that is making us forget the reality in the world, giving us unrealistic expectations about life itself? I remember as a child, much later in life, I realized that this is a very common fear in many children. As a child, I had a fear of what if my mother died? And this used to bother me a lot. And as I grew up, what I realized was what is bothering me is, yes, of course, the fact that there's a possibility my mother can die was bothering me. But the bigger thing was knowing that it is inevitable and knowing that I don't have a comfort, knowing that I'll be very deeply hurt and in a lot of pain. Now, this is as a child. Because as you grow into an adult, it gets complicated. You get a spouse, you get children, and it gets even more complicated. So, as a child, I used to wonder, I used to think to myself, I know logically that my mother has to die at some point. And it's possible that my mother can die even when I'm a child. The reality didn't escape me. But what troubled me was I knew that I'll be broken. And I thought, I'll be broken about something that is inevitable. Is there a way? And because it's inevitable, I live in fear of it happening, the fear of it happening and the fear of being broken. Is there a way to live where I accept that it is a reality and be at peace? So as I grew up, I realized that I was looking for this peace. And as I became an adult and the attachments multiplied, and especially after I became a mother, I believe I started really earnestly looking for this solution. Because realistically, you know that a child can die. However, because of the power of the attachment, you don't want it to happen to you, even though it's not in your control. So once I got children only, I realized that I have got myself into one of the most powerful attachments possible in the universe. And I'm in deep trouble. This attachment is going to take away any peace that I have ever known. And I can safely say that after I became a mother, my search for this peace, how can I be peaceful in the face of reality? And this was something I was looking for. And when Bhante Ji mentioned this, there are objects and beings, they are impermanent, and that's fine. Your suffering comes from that attachment. What is this attachment? That when somebody else's child dies, or somebody else's mother dies, you are sad, for sure. But when it is your mother or your child, it is an unexplainable, incomprehensible grief and suffering. What is causing this? Both instances are death of a human being, of a similar age, similar makeup. And one is a realistic acceptance of, oh, that is life, what to do, how sad. And the other is incomprehensible grief. So what is this part? What is this attachment that is causing this? One is there is an expectation in all of this attachment that it will last forever. And here this forever is defined as at least as long as I am alive. The person will last as long as I am alive. And now you can start to see, friends, where that delusion is coming from. How we are creating this suffering for ourselves. That expectation that this relationship will be there as long as I am alive. Because you know logically that this relationship or this person is impermanent, you know that. But your ardent wish is that as long as you are alive, may that not end. Now, how unrealistic is that? It is extremely unrealistic. It goes against every truth of the world, of the universe. Because everything rises, changes, and passes away. And everything has its own reasons for rising and the reasons for passing away. What if this attachment was not there and you are an enlightened being? And this is where you have to unpeel what this attachment is. Because when you look at the life of the Buddha, you can see that he loved his family. You can see that he loved his father. He took a lot of effort to make sure that his father got enlightened. And this also, I was curious for a long time, seeing that the Buddha had his family, he had his friends, his relation, and he took the effort as much as he took the effort on strangers. He took the effort on the known people to help them to achieve this state. What was that? It was a love without attachment. It was a love without attachment where you know a person and you feel for that person. You care for that person. You care for the person's well-being. And if the person suddenly dropped dead, you understand that that is how it is. It is what it is. And isn't that amazing? If we can have all our relationships, all the relationships that are truly meaningful for us, if we can have it in that level of understanding. Mother, father, son, daughter, husband, wife, friends, teachers, colleagues at work, neighbors, everyone we are fond of. To know that they are impermanent beings, they are changing all the time, and they can suddenly drop dead and they will be no more. And that is, it is what it is. So this attachment that is causing us grief, what is it? So there one is that expectation that it will not change. They will not change. They will be there. Keeping it as it is. That is one. There's another expectation. An expectation that they will speak and behave and be as in the way we want them to be. Take a small example. Think of a friend. Sometimes you fall out with friends. Sometimes friends fall out with you over petty things. What happened? In the friend's mind, there's an expectation that you need to show up or do something for the friend, and when you fail in it, there is hurt. You may be having your reasons, but the friend may feel that in spite of it, you could have shown up, and there is hurt, and temporarily that friendship is strained. All that comes under expectation and control, as wanting to control the situation, as having expectation. All this comes from this attachment. This attachment is causing us to see ourselves as permanent and to see the person we attach to as a permanent thing, being. And the expectation of how that being should be present, how that being should speak, behave, show up. A lot of expectations in it. And many of these expectations, we didn't ask their permission. We just assumed as part of that relationship, as part of that attachment, that it is our right. So whether it is a child, a spouse, we want them to be in a certain place for us, talk in a certain way. They have certain habits which really annoy us. We wish that they get their act together. And if you think about your children, I look at my children are now adult children. There are a couple of their baby photos on a wall. Whenever I see that, I'm like, oh, how cute, how cuddly. Sometimes you wish you had that cute, cuddly baby again. And those past photos can make you sad. Oh, they are grown up now. They have changed. So the Buddha clearly understood this. He said, the reality of the world is it's changing every moment, in milliseconds, nanoseconds, changing at a very fast speed. You can't comprehend that speed. It takes you some time to realize that something has changed, but things are changing really fast right now. Anything that is changing really fast right now cannot really give you a happiness that usually comes from things that are more permanent. There's nothing that is permanent, and there's nothing that can give you that happiness. Everything is changing all the time. So when you get attached to these things, you are letting yourself into a trap, into a prison, where you're going to end up feeling very unhappy. If you take your new car, a new bag, new shoes, new dress, new suit, when there is something new, shiny new object, with your experience, you almost can't enjoy it because you know that this is going to fade away. It's going to be new and shiny for a little time only. This is going to fade away. It's going to get old. It's going to get creased. It's going to have wear and tear. And gradually over time, when you see it, you feel sad. Oh, it's grown old. Because in your mind, you are holding on to a thought, a concept, a permanent concept. So this is why it is important to think what makes us unhappy, what makes us suffer, and to see that we are doing it for ourselves. Because whatever the reality we understand, we are fine with that reality when it is for others. But when it comes to me, myself, you feel very special. You feel that you deserve this happiness. So the Buddha said, While the world is about Anicca, Dukkha, Anatta, impermanence, suffering and non-self, lay people, people who are not enlightened, they see it as Nitya, Sukha, Atta. Nitya is permanent. Sukha is these cause me pleasure and happiness. And Atta is there is something here. There is an entity. There is me, myself, I as an entity living for, depending on your age, 30 years, 50 years, 70 years, living for 70 years. It all feels like one block of time. These are the things that we have to unpeel. These are the things we have to take off layer by layer. How is it that I feel? I have lived 52 years, and that's my age. I have lived 52 years. But taking that entire chunk as a permanent entity. Through Vipassana, the Buddha, when he tried all the teaching in the world, everything took him very near to the truth, but nothing gave him that insight, that peace that he was looking for. Whatever the techniques he tried when he came out of it, that fear of suffering, growing old, falling sick and dying, the people he loved, them growing old, them falling sick and them dying, that fear and that sadness, that sorrow, that was still there. And he was very close, but still he couldn't comprehend what was this all about? What is causing all of this? And that is where he discovered Vidarshana. If Buddhism can patent some things, Vidarshana is certainly one. Patency goes to the Buddha, where he, through his samadhi, which he had practiced for many births, Dhammanupassana, calming the mind becoming very calm, very single-minded, one-pointed, and very powerful. And through that mind, when he looked at what's really happening, he saw this body dissolve into small particles and then dissolve completely. Because we are made of very, very, very tiny particles. So tiny that the human eye, there's no chance for the human eye to find it. Long before atoms and protons, neutrons, electrons. And that is how far science went. Maybe there's even smaller things than that. We are limited in our knowledge by what humans have found out through science, through external things. The Buddha gained infinite knowledge because he didn't look externally, he looked internally through his mind side, the most powerful laboratory, your own mind side. And the techniques which he gifted to the world as Vipassana, that is where he said, if you go inside, you find all the secrets of the universe. And there he saw the tiniest particles changing at an amazing speed, a speed that the brain cannot comprehend. We are made of really tiny, tiny, tiny particles, and they are changing in nanoseconds at a very rapid speed, faster than nanoseconds. And therefore he saw that there's nothing to call me, myself, I in this moment. But because our senses, the 6 sense doors that we use to get data in, process it, and make sense of this world, because that system is so limited in its scope, we really cannot see that we are changing in this moment. The whole growing old and decaying is happening right now, really fast. and we can't see. So the impermanence he was referring to is right now. And something, changing so fast, how can it ever give you any lasting happiness? Because think about this. If you're in a house now and you have to change house, imagine the difficulties and inconveniences you go to change your house and get comfortable with the next house. And imagine if your house has to be changed every month, how inconvenient that would be. Could any house give you any happiness? Imagine if you had to change your house every week, how incredibly stressful that would be. Could such a house give you any happiness? A house you have to change every week. And imagine you have to change your house every day. How incredibly inconvenient. Imagine you have to change your house every hour, every minute, every second, every split of a second. That is the level of change. And he said, nothing that is changing at this level can ever give you happiness. And if you're expecting happiness from these things, you're asking for trouble. You're going to be very unhappy. So then what is the source of our happiness? The source of happiness is to understand that what we have traditionally seen as the process of happiness, this panchaskandha, is actually the problem. Misunderstanding myself as me, myself, I have lived for 52 years. That is the problem. Seeing something impermanent in this moment and believing that it is permanent. Believing that it can give you happiness and pleasure. So getting attached to this whole idea of me, myself, I, that is the biggest attachment of it all. That is the biggest problem of it all. And as if that is not enough, we then get attached to others who make that me, myself, I even more concrete. My mother, my father, my brother, sister, my husband, my wife, my son, my daughter, my friends, my teachers, my car, my house. All of these things. Imagine the reality is completely different. Imagine if we can see the reality. We can see the reality of ourselves. When you go in front of the mirror, imagine you don't see you, but rather you see these particles. And through the particles, you look to find you, and there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing. And then what do? Everything, this world that we have built, everything from the foundation starts to crack. And this is something we need to reflect on and contemplate. And if you just try to think about this in your normal thinking process, you'll feel scared, you'll feel overwhelmed. And that is why the normal thinking process is not the way to understand this. That is why the Buddha introduced the Vidarshana technique. When you do Dhammanupassana, you can start observing these subtle changes in you. You start observing, and gradually, the body that felt like a monolithic mass, you start to feel the vibration, the changes, the particles, the dissolving, and the void. You start to experience it, first-hand experience. And you start realizing, this is what the Buddha was talking about. And slowly that concept that you have built as me, myself, I, this permanent being, slowly that is getting chipped away. You start experiencing impermanence. You start observing your thoughts, your mind, the whole Panchopadana Skandha, that whole process starts. Let's take your eye. Your eye is a visual, is a sense door. There's a visual object. The eye and the visual object gets connected by your mind's attention. Creates a touch, hasta, eye consciousness. Feelings arises, perception, start perceiving what you're seeing. And based on whether you like it or not, Lobha Dvesha, you start reacting. Rupa Vedana, Sanya, Sankara. Form, feeling, perception, and the reaction. And you start seeing that, this process, it's of absolute no value. I have been trapped in this process, thinking that I get happiness and pleasure in the things I see, in the things I hear, the things I feel. But now I can see that that whole process, there's no value in it. I'm a slave. I'm a hamster running endlessly on a hamster wheel. So this is how you start experiencing impermanence. From Kaya-nupassana, you can experience impermanence. As you do Anapanasati meditation, Anapanasati meditation can be done as a samatha meditation and also vipassana meditation. It becomes a samatha meditation when you use it to calm your mind and bring your mind to one-pointedness. It becomes vipassana when you start observing the quality of the breath. You start observing that each breath is different, it's changing. And you start observing the minute, fine things about that breath. And you start experiencing firsthand how change is taking place. So through all of these firsthand experiences, Dhammanupassana is then contemplating about it. The contemplation of it is Dhammanupassana. So many a times it's possible that you listen to a talk and you get inspired and you think, okay, I want to practice this, I want to sit, I want to meditate. So that is why in all of these meditation retreats, there's always a talk. The talk inspires you. The talk gives you material to observe, to study in your meditation. And often it happens that we sit down to practice something, but some core points in the talk start playing in your head over and over again and start contemplating. And that is Dhammanupassana, contemplating. So when I heard that Q&A, and when Venerable Bhanteji said, it is not the flower or the cloud. Of course, the flower and the cloud are impermanent. It makes you suffer only if you get attached to it. And that got me thinking, contemplating, peeling, taking layer by layer of this attachment. What is this? I went back to my childhood worry about my mother dying. And my mother, bless her, she's 82. Imagine I was worried that she'll die at the age of, I was 10 and now I'm 52 and she's still around. This goes to show that you are worrying about the wrong thing. Most often things that you worry about don't happen, something else happens. And they say, why worry? Because you're worrying about the wrong thing. So anyway, I still have that. Okay, I know I'll miss my mother when she eventually passes away. So how do you get ready? I have adult children, a spouse, father, and other people I love. In this world, it's possible, any one of them, any one of us, me, myself, we can drop dead any moment. How do you prepare yourself? How do you dwell in the Dhamma so that you know these inevitable things when they happen? You are realistic about it. So I was peeling off layer by layer. What is this about this attachment to my mother, my daughter, my dog? What is this? And then I realized one critical layer in it was, as long as I am alive, they should be alive too. Okay, now that's foolish, right? That's foolish, illogical. And I was thinking, if this is what I am basing my happiness on, I deserve to suffer because it's insane. It's not realistic. It's not possible. What is the other layer? The other layer is I think about the instances that I get annoyed with my mother. I get annoyed with my mother when she's not behaving the way I want her to. Because I, as the daughter, believe that I know what is good for her and I know what is not good for her. And if she's doing something that I believe is not good for her, I get annoyed. There you go. Isn't that the problem of the world? Problem of everyone. You want to control others for their benefit. But is that possible? Have you ever successfully achieved it? So I remember Venerable Konyanya used to tell us in these various meditation practices, my first master of meditation, it is your duty to tell a person, if you can see that the person is doing something that is not good for that person. But what if the person doesn't listen? What if your ability to control is very limited? Then you have to accept it. So I remember whenever I get annoyed, angry, sad, fear, I think, okay, I'm going through a negative energy, negative emotion, and it is only my fault. It's 100% me. Buddhism is about taking full accountability for your unhappiness. Knowing that your suffering is caused because you have a delusion of the reality right now. So whenever I feel angry, so let's say that I'm getting annoyed with my spouse, with my husband, getting annoyed about something he's saying or doing, getting really annoyed. And then when I notice that I'm annoyed, and annoyance is a suffering, right? I'm like, why am I suffering now? I'm suffering because of my own delusion of not being realistic, not accepting reality. So what is this reality in front of me? There is a person. This person has a way of speaking and living and behaving. And here I am. I want to change it. Is that fair? Is that right? What if this person drops dead tonight? Oh, I will miss this person so much. Okay, then what's the second best thing? The second best thing is let this person live the way this person is. Accept this person. And then I think, versus a person dropping dead tonight. No. You're fine the way you are. Please stay the way you are. And then that annoyance disappears because I am putting reality in front of me. Most often reality is about accepting. Reality is about accepting. There's a beautiful prayer that I heard from some of my Christian Catholic friends. Lord, give me the strength to change the things I can and the knowledge to let go of the things I can't and the wisdom to see the difference. Such a powerful thing. We should remember this every day, especially in our relationship. Places where we are deeply attached to and we are bound to suffer on a daily basis. Give me the strength to change the things I can and the knowledge to let go of the things I can't and the wisdom to know the difference, when to do it. Real peace, real happiness comes from acceptance. Accepting a person for all that person's eccentricities. Think of even the people who help you in your life, your helpers. Such a complaint I get. Or my help is this and my help is that. You can spend your entire life trying to control the helpers to behave, to speak, to behave the way you want. And somebody might say, you know, I don't agree to this. Some level of restraint is required. Please, go for it. You have to decide how much of your peace and happiness do you want to sacrifice for it, and how much of your peace and happiness is worth acceptance. The more simple you are in your requirement, the more peaceful and happy you are. Now, I'm not saying that what I'm doing is the right thing, but this is how I find my peace and happiness. I have a person who cooks, and this person asked me, what would you like me to cook? And I'm anything. You can cook anything you want. However, the rest of the household may have their own views. So please ask them what they want. As for me, whatever you cook, I'm fine. So I don't get involved. I don't get involved in it. Whatever is cooked, I accept. And therefore, one entire part, a big chunk of life where a lot of people get very stressed about what to eat, is it cooked right, is this right, is this wrong, that part, I'm completely free of. Now, I'm not telling you that that's the right thing. All I'm telling you is this is how I find my peace of mind. Then when it comes to clothes, I believe I have a wardrobe full of clothes, and those are more than enough. Now, I have been accused by my friends of wearing some of the same things for every party, every function. And I'm like, I can't be bothered. I have a few things that makes me look very nice, and I'm satisfied that I look nice, and I just wear them. So I can't be bothered going shopping, and every time there's a function to buy something new. It's too stressful. And they're like, but no, look, you appear on Facebook. It's the same dress. And I'm like, so I'm cool. I'm cool about it. What will others think? And I'm like, not my problem. So another large part that bothers many females in this world about, what others think about what you wear. Don't get me wrong. I like to dress well. I like to dress well. It's just that I don't go and change things just because, I appeared on somebody's Facebook. That doesn't bother me. I like to dress nice, and whatever I have is more than enough. Because the process of shopping I find very stressful. So one by one, I take layer by layer. Take children, for example. When they were born, I thought, okay, what is the least stressful way of rearing children? If they get sick, I know I'm going to be very stressed, and there's nothing I can do about it. So I thought, okay, I'll get stressed when they're sick, that's fine. But everything else, will they study? What will they turn out at? I thought, let me just focus my energies on, are they going to be good people or not? That's it. Study, not study, it's up to them. Now, some of you might think that this is very selfish, or this is not correct. Now, trust me, even as a mother, if I let go of not being too involved with their education, trust me, the world, the grandparents get involved, husband gets involved. So don't worry. There's enough people to look after and make sure they're on the right track. It's just that for my peace of mind, I let go of another entire chunk of things. And I thought, look, even if they fail every exam, that's fine. There's still a program you can spend money and send them and get them qualified on something, and that's fine. So if you are going to live a life as a layman, you have to be, first of all, accountable for your peace of mind. Take accountability for your peace of mind. And ask yourself, today, if I'm unhappy, ask yourself, what is causing this unhappiness? Oh, yes, the next door dog is barking, and I'm unhappy because of it. Just think about it, friends. These are the things, friends, that make us unhappy, isn't it? The next door dog barking. If you really take off layer by layer, what is it? It's just a sound. It's just a sound, friends. It's a sound wave that's hitting your ear. If you take spirit makes you feel so good, right? That's also a sound wave. At a very basic level, these are all sound. Your perception says that that is a dog barking and that's bad, this is spirit and it's good. It's all perception, points of view. Can you really control the next door dog's barking? You can tell your neighbor, tell your dog to not bark. Is that realistic? Dogs bark. Your neighbor will throw a party. And some parties can go till 2, 3 in the morning, they'll be singing and you can't sleep. And here, Venerable Konanya would say, And he said that it was Ajahn Chah, Venerable Ajahn Chah, who said this. The sound is not bothering you, you are bothering the sound. It's a very profound saying. The sound is not bothering you, you are bothering the sound. Yes, because it's just a sound, just a sound, part of nature, part of the reality of the world. But if you get attached to it, you can get attached to things with love, with liking. You can get attached to things with dislike, with aversion. Both of them cause you suffering. And this is the reality that the Buddha was trying to tell us. Just observe. Observe yourself. What is causing me this unhappiness right now? This reflection is also Dhammanupassana. This reflection is Dhammanupassana. And let us now take 5 minutes and reflect on this thing. Pick one item that you like today and start unpeeling it. Take an attachment. If it is your child, take that attachment with the child. Don't be scared. Look at it straight in the eye. That whole attachment. What kind of suffering is that going to cause me? Why? What is the misguided reality? What is my delusion here? That is a starting point. What is the anicca or the impermanence that I'm failing to see here? Imagine that we can, when we come in front of the mirror, we can see those tiny particles and we look really clearly, there's nothing there. Imagine something that's nothing. In love with something else that's nothing. Imagine the ridiculousness of it, of that situation. So pick whatever that caught your interest today and let's reflect on it for 5 minutes. Start unpeeling it. And just keep this thing in focus. As people who are on the path, we have to be fully accountable, 100% accountable for our peace of mind or the lack of it. Be fully aware, fully alert where you're losing your peace of mind. And you know that it's only yourself to blame. It's your delusion that is causing you this suffering. And use that amazing opportunity. It's an amazing opportunity. Your awareness that your delusion is causing you suffering right now. And start taking it out layer by layer and see what exactly is causing this. And at the bottom of it all, you'll find impermanence. Your misunderstanding of a permanent entity trying to control something for your pleasure and happiness. So let us now pause for 5 minutes and then we'll end the session and look for comments and questions. Let the 5 minutes start now. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Now you can gently open your
Thank
eyes.
you. Thank you very much, Nadeesha. We listened to excellent talk. I like the way you started by, saying how you were inspired to give this talk simply by listening to a talk by Bhanteji and the question that was raised by a foreigner who saw a flower and knew it was impermanent but didn't cause any suffering. He saw a cloud which he knew was impermanent but didn't cause any suffering. Well, then Buddha had stated very clearly that the cause of suffering is tanha. Tanhaya jayati soko. And in that context, tanha includes both the attachment to what is pleasant and an aversion to what is unpleasant. So in all throughout our lives, all what we have been doing from our experiences is that we get attached to what is pleasant and we develop an aversion or a reputation to what is unpleasant. And that is because we don't know the true nature of those experiences, which are all perceptions. It's an illusion. So, what is needed then is to transcend from this perceived experience to the reality. And reality is what you told all the time as